How's it going? It's Thursday, September 29th, 2022. It's been a little bit of while since I've made a report on something, and right now it's going to be off script again. It's going to be something that I'm just uh, letting out right now. Tomorrow's the big day between Governor Greg Abbott and Governor candidate for governor Beto O'Rourke. I'm still putting some money on Beto. I'm hoping that he wins and everything. I don't really have much to report about it because it's not until tomorrow night. So I'm more than likely going to be reporting on Saturday. What I'm hoping for is that promise that Beto made that he won't let anybody down in taking on somebody like Abbott. One thing that I'm hoping that he's gonna refrain from doing a lot is that cussing. He's been recorded a lot, cursing out people and all this other stuff, and I get it, but he still has to run for governor, and the governor still needs to maintain a better, bigger stance than that, you know. And despite the fact that it's still not guaranteed as to whether or not that can actually be played off. Somebody like Greg Abbott, who's doing nothing but accusations and scare tactics and all this other crap, doing nothing but hate and blame game crap, hate pointing and all this other stuff. That's more than likely going to trigger a reaction, from O'Rourke, who's we can't judge him. But at the same time, it'd still be nice to see him act a whole lot more professional than the crap that, Abbott has been doing with this whole, theatrics and stuff. And that's still if Abbott is still going by his accusational campaign ads where he's, just making all these wild claims about Beto O'Rourke and not really getting it down right, just good enough to keep the anger towards O'Rourke alive. And what I mean by that is the ads that he'd been putting out there. Hold on, sorry, I had to sneeze. What I was referring to was the ads that Abbott has been using right now. The first accusation is O'Rourke wants to defund the police and dismantle the police, but he's using them in the same sentence phrase, which is politically incorrect. Because if anybody ever bothered to read the defund the police proposition, they would know it's not about cutting funds for the police. They would know it's about stop spending money on excessive bullcrap that the police don't even use, even at times like at Uvalde where they had the perfect opportunity to use it, but didn't, Battering rams, riot shields, brand new combative weapons with sniper scopes, all that good stuff. None of it was put into play. And it's been like that for quite a few emergencies throughout the past, 7 years, about 7 years now, since Abbott has been put into office, since 2015. So he's doing all of this stuff where he's buying all this tactical gear and all this other crap. None of it is being put to use. That's a lot of money wasted off of our tax-paying dollars. And that's where defund the police came from. It's the removal of this garbage that everything from, knee pads and more chest plates and helmets, all the way up to armor-plated RVs, all that stuff, it's worthless. It's pointless. There's no point to it. My current governor is combining defund with dismantle and using it together to make this wild accusation that's just making anybody in favor of it look, un-American, And right now he can do that because up until voting day, we're going to find out. Right now, it's safe to assume that he's going to get away with doing it too. He's going to get away with using this scare tactic to convince all of Texas to vote for him because he's anti-defund and dismantle the police. Okay? Honestly, everybody in Texas needs to wake up. The defund the police is not about dismantling the police. It's not even about budget cuts. It's about stopping a certain amount of money, our tax-paying dollars, in being spent in the most worthless crap that is not being used, even when there's an opportunity to use it. It's just not being used. The Uvalde shooting was the worst case example, but yet still the prime example of what that was about. O'Rourke, back to the subject of the debate, O'Rourke needs to point that out. O'Rourke needs to point out how so incredibly wrong the current governor is in combining those two and making everybody believe that it's the same thing. No, it is nowhere near the same thing. It's nowhere near what that means. In fact, there should be a point where going through the original proposition or whatever proposition that made it to the courts, there should be a demand in saying, well, where does it say that? Let's break down the police. Let's remove the police. Let's make sure that they're restricted. I've never heard of anybody writing a bill that says that. So if I was O'Rourke, I'd put him on the spot and say, well, where does that say that in the bill? But and further on into this subject, he needs to be very serious in pointing out just how horrible Abbott is with the lack of funds that goes to the education, and the whole selling out to private schools. That should be a decision for the people, yes, but for the governor to specialize, to have budget cuts to public schools where our tax-paying dollars are being put to use, simply because people will go. There's some people that will go as far as paying for their kids' education through college, and it's just college preparatory school. It's not even school. You're not really learning anything. You're just being taught how to pass tests. So when you go to college, you can pass the test. That doesn't guarantee a great future, especially while students have to actually be given college debt forgiveness. So for Abbott to be doing all these budget cuts and all this other crap, spending, billions of dollars on brand new door locks to schools to prevent another Uvalde shooting in an elementary school. Well, nice try. It worked back in 2018. It's pointless now because of all these preparations. Then to top it all off, charging us the taxpayer, charging every Texan tax-paying dollars to it. Immigration reform is another one. When immigration reform is put into use, immigrants who are working pay taxes as well. It's the people like Greg Abbott who restricts them from working, ergo restricts them from paying taxes, ergo hurts the economy even more, except for he and the people that he is follow the people that is following him. People who he sees as his people. They're doing fine. Because on the technical level, that lack of tax-paying dollars that's going to Texas economy is by design only hurting the Texas citizens. It's nowhere near hurting anybody up at the top, and that's just not right. That's incredibly crooked. Beto really needs to come out and point this out about Abbott. And his babbling bullcrap, his catering to all of the gerrymandering tactics in the housing. Tons and tons of communities are being built. Okay, brand new houses, and they're all being charged $250,000 to $500,000. When before this craze started, a two-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, front yard, backyard house on, say, 1,900 feet, 1,900 square feet, 2,100 square feet, was only $100,000 before this whole craze and attempted gerrymandering crap has come and taken its place. Okay, now people are buying 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, 0 garages on 1,400 feet at most, 900 square feet, 750 square feet, and they're getting charged $300,000. And the people that are coming down here, they don't seem to mind, just simply because they sold their $500,000 house or $300,000 house in a impoverished city that they came from to come down here to San Antonio, Texas, where it's a little bit more breathing room and, a whole lot more fresh air. I see them here in my car because I'm still a rideshare driver. I see them here in my car, and I'm asking these requesters, why would you sell a $300,000 house over there just to come over here and pay another $300,000 for a new house? They said, well, it's to get out of that area. It's to get out of the city that I was living in. And I guess it makes sense. Yeah, if things are so impoverished over there, why they don't try to put people in charge to stop the crap that's going over there, I don't know. Here in Texas, it's more of an uphill battle, but nevertheless, it's a mission for quite a few of us down here to change things before it gets as bad as over there. But yeah, these are all points that O'Rourke seriously needs to point out. And I'm hoping that he does. Despite of all the wild accusations that Abbott is going to be claiming. He came out claiming in protest to Biden's college forgiveness, saying, when I was young, I went to school and then I worked my way to the top and all this stuff and everything. And, but what he's completely neglecting, and I hope O'Rourke brings this up, what he's completely neglecting is all the quiet firing that almost every single business is now doing. Making things so miserable for the worker that the worker has to leave to go find another place to work. That was not around when Governor Greg Abbott was in college working to pay his tuition. The tuitions were nowhere near as skyrocketing and nowhere near as high as interest rates to Greg Abbott back when he was in college, the way they are these days. And again, this is what I'm hoping to hear from O'Rourke, to be making these, to be pointing out these facts. Abbott got the chance to work off his student debt. Well, good for Governor Abbott. Good for him. That's not what's going on these days with the rest of Texas. That's not what's happening now. What's happening now is this high interest rate, damn right, almost like a price gouge kind of thing. I don't know the politically economic term. Maybe his his campaign people can point out the actual word. But it's just downright wrong. It's downright abuse. You know, Greg Abbott didn't go through any of that crap. He's not going through any of the crap that we're going through now. That doesn't exist. In point of fact, he's part of the problem, as he's one of the reasons why we are going through this garbage now. Why people are going through quiet firing, why they're having to resort to quiet quitting while secretly retyping their resume, hoping that they get a chance to go for a different opportunity before the damn boss finds out. Reworking their portfolio and stuff. He didn't have to. Greg Abbott didn't have to go through this crap. He don't have to go through the crap that we're going through now. To hell with him. He's part of the problem. He's part of the reasons why quiet quitting is a result of quiet firing. Greg Abbott is a part of the reasons why everything is so high interest rates. Greg Abbott is part of the reasons why we're going through high costs of living, leading to inflation, if not actual, what do you call it? The other word. Depression. Greg Abbott is part of the reasons why we had that threat, that economic threat. He's not doing anything for the people. He's only catering to the rich, not even the rich, just the corporations that give him money. And regardless as to whether or not it screws the rest of us and the citizens. So, O'Rourke needs to seriously point that out. He needs to point that out. He needs to point that out as strong as he did with that gun control issue. He's not trying to get rid of combative weapons. He just wants to stop the ease of buying them, for crying out loud. That is not an unreasonable demand. That is not an unreasonable policy. And I can use an example. The 9/11 attack. The guys were capable of taking a plane just off of the basic principles of flight education. They told the flight instructor they just wanted to know how to fly it. Not take off, not land, just fly. Okay? Now, that's a warning sign when somebody does that. Now, red flags are waved, and those students are now under investigation, which leads to a prevention of the next aerial attack with our own planes, commercial planes. Now it's a preventive measure. It's one of the tactics used. Now revert that same preventive measures to gun control, where you're having to go through a psych exam, where you're having to go through a background check, where you're having to go through a criminal history check, whether or not you've been social media check, whether or not you've been listening to some hate speech spewing their hate, brainwashing your damn minds. Excuse me. All those warning signs that should have been put into effect that are not, especially with Greg Abbott in charge of Texas. Okay? Especially with Greg Abbott in charge. None of those precautions are being used. None of them. And it's all because of the simple fact that he's saying, well, the gunman is going to do what he wants to do. Yeah. But at the same time, all those preventive measures annihilates almost every single one of those gunmen that want to do what they want to do, except for that one that actually gets it done. The prime example, once again, is the 9/11 attacks. You hardly hear anybody ever using a plane to try to crash into a building, smash somebody, obstruct traffic, go into a building, fly into the waters, crash into a boat, a ferry, a canoe. You don't see anybody doing that kind of crap. You don't see anybody doing that kind of crap. We had that one opportunity. The terrorists had that one opportunity. It's done, and it's been prevented ever since. So how in the world, Well, is anybody thinking that it's anti-American to put regulations, especially when you've got a young 18-year-old who gets a gun immediately as soon as he turns 18 with the harmful intent? He's told everybody he wants to do it. He's left a goddamn manifestation like the other guy that guy that ran around in a dress and sniped over in Chicago, sniped people, in a dress, That guy left a manifestation. This guy left a manifestation. They all left a manifestation. They're all saying, hey, I'm going to do this. And still, nobody wants to check that out. Nobody wants to see why. Nobody wants to see if they're subjects to some other person's preaches of hate. Nobody wants to check to see if this guy's even psychoanalytically qualified enough to be in possession of a gun, And we're supposed to vote for the current leaders now, who say, he's gonna do it anyway. No. If you catch the damn bastard in the act, or before, no, he's not gonna do it anyway. Same thing with that bombing in front of the not MSNBC, but the NBC building. The guy tried pulling up with a car to blow up the NBC building. He didn't get far. Shoe bombers, people with sandals on airports, they all get stopped now. They all get checked. There hasn't been somebody with a bomb on a plane in a long time. It is so privileged now that people who don't want to abide by the safety concerns of wearing a mask get to pick fights with people on board, get to pick fights with stewardesses and the pilot. There hasn't been a single fear of terrorism anywhere since that time. And it's been 21 years. It's been 20 years. 21 years. You got people so not afraid of that anymore because of the preventive measures taken that you got them getting all pissing and moaning for not wearing a seatbelt on the flight. You got them all pissing and moaning for not having decaf in a gelato or whatever, a gelato on the thing. People are raising a stink fit with each other, It's fucking stupid. So back to this campaign where Abbott wants deregulations of gun ownership, well, to hell with him. O'Rourke is offering gun control, with all of these damn things, these measures taken to keep everybody safe. Screw Greg Abbott, Beto, let's say Beto actually tries to take guns away, combative weapons to be more specific. That's illegal processing that's just going to be killing everybody. It's going to be prolonged. There's going to be delayed trials. There's going to be specific lawyers to handle this. Well, he wants this done, but under such and such legislation, he's not permitted to do that, and all this other crap. While people who don't really know how to tackle that legally are just going to say, it's unconstitutional. Okay? That's all that's going to happen. So why not let him give him his shot while he's doing his governing right here in Texas? Why don't he does his governing, and occasionally he'll do his, anti-combative gun speech and all this good stuff. Man's got to have a hobby, And we certainly don't like the horse shit the horse crap that Abbott is doing. Immigration is one of them. Immigration is one of the prime ones. It's probably going to be the main thing mostly talked about at how horrible Abbott is running things, And hopefully O'Rourke can keep it together with that as well. I notice he's doing a lot of crying and a lot of yelling and a lot of, fuck you if you don't like my ideas at hecklers. I really need him. I really need him to maintain, I really need him to maintain, the wasted tax-paying dollars on the wall that is not only not complete, it's still not even being worked on. He needs to point that out big time. That Abbott is not about protecting Texans. Abbott is not about protecting America. Abbott is not about protecting Americans. Okay? He's been pulling out $3 to $4 billion by this time. He has gotten $3 to $4 billion by this time. Not a single dollar of it went to the wall. He's been obstructing every single facility that's been there to keep migrants contained, safe, quarantined if they're sick. Abbott has done nothing but obstruct those methods. Those things were keeping us safe. Abbott has done the exact opposite. And then to top it all off, busing possible contaminated, if not infectious, if not criminal, infectious, if not felons, to think, how can we say that? Well, we can't say that. He's not giving them their identifications back. He's not identifying them, and he's not sending the data to the sanctuary cities that are supposed to be given to them once they're bust. Okay? O'Rourke shouldn't be complaining about the busing. He should be complaining about the methods of. No ID. No medical check. No medical verifications. No identical verifications. No criminal verifications. None of the above. He's distributing possible criminals and killers of some sort to a certain extent, from one extent to another. And if he isn't, well, America should know that. America should have the information to know that. It's not so much the busing, it's the method that he's using. And then to top it all off, turning a blind eye to somebody who's flying them. What if it wasn't DeSantis? What if it was a crime boss? He's supposed to be protecting us. What if that was a crime boss that flew out there? What if it was the next Chapo? What if it was Chapo's son? What if it was one of Chapo's henchmen taking over? What if it was one of their doings? Greg Abbott is totally confused and furious with DeSantis and all this stuff and all of that. He should be. Yeah. DeSantis flew out a bunch of immigrants without telling anybody. What if that was a crime boss instead of DeSantis? What if that was the next damn mafia boss or hell, a Yakuza boss, a Yakuza thing, somebody that works for a triads, importing migrants or moving migrants around to fuck with America? What if it was a crime boss? What if it was some kind of organization that was that's underground, a criminal underground organization, all underneath Greg Abbott's nose? Or he's just turned a blind eye to it. I think it's a combination of both. To hell with this guy. To hell with this governor. Beto O'Rourke needs to point that out majorly. He needs to point that out majorly. Greg Abbott is nothing but a risk. A bad risk to top it all off. He is a horrible, worthless, especially when it comes to protecting Texas. He's over here protecting America. He can't even protect Texas. Letting people fly in and fly them out. We were just lucky that it was a governor and not some criminal, not some actual organization involving with human trafficking. Human enslavement. And what if those, or not even just human trafficking, what about felon trafficking? What if somebody in that airplane, Airbus load of people was a part of the criminal element? You see what I'm saying? What if there was a bunch of fentanyl up one of his butts, of his bum holes, and he was given a free ride to Martha's Vineyard? There he goes passing out meth and making a profit off of meth and fentanyl that he transported out of his bumhole, for the criminal organization. For a criminal organization. If it wasn't DeSantis, the simple fact that this could go on underneath Greg Abbott's nose, or while he's turning a blind eye to it all, the simple fact that fentanyl can actually be transported, meth, even up somebody's bumhole, like the way they usually do when they cross the border. The simple fact that it can be done underneath his nose, unbeknownst to him, that's a very serious fact to take into consideration here. I personally think Greg Abbott got a cut from that. I think it was a human trafficking thing, but that's just my opinion. I think Greg Abbott is actually a part of the human trafficking of the immigration. Look at all these people that have been slipping by. Look at all the people that he's been sending without any kind of identification for anybody out there in the sanctuary cities to know or not know, in this case, not know, as to whether or not any one of those people on those buses were criminals or part of the faction, part of the criminal organizations. They don't know that. And Greg Abbott isn't telling them. To hell with this guy. They don't know that anybody was airbus to Martha Vineyards that has every intention of murder raping children. And Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis isn't telling anybody that. To hell with him. To top it all off, there is testimony of him stating how upset he is with DeSantis. And rightly so. Because it could have been somebody from a criminal element, from a criminal family that transported that Airbus. It wouldn't be a surprise. They're airbusing drugs all the time, since as far back as the 1980s cocaine pandemic. Since the cocaine and then later on crack epidemic, I should say. The hell with it. I'm hoping that O'Rourke points out. I mean, like, I'm using stuff that triggers your laughter and everything because I'm trying not to be all Alex Jones, okay? Just this red in the face, blue in the face guy yelling into a microphone. You can't see the points that I'm making, though. Common sense on common ground. Regardless as to whether or not I'm referring to anybody's bumhole. Common sense says, yeah, the crime took place. And we can all see that it could have been an actual organized crime family, a cartel, a gang, an organization. The busing, same thing. There's really nothing stopping the criminal element from driving the buses themselves, filling out applications, getting their CDLs, and driving the migrants away themselves. It's really, really a bad thing. It is a bad thing. What Greg Abbott is doing is just god-awful wrong. And we need to vote him out. But one of the things that convinces the people to vote him out is that debate. Do we got a champion out of this O'Rourke guy? I don't know. I'm rooting for him. But I really do hope that I'm placing a good bet on this guy, on Beto O'Rourke. I'm hoping that I'm placing a good bet on him by way of being an actual professional. I'm just pointing everything out that Greg Abbott is doing wrong, because that's exactly what Abbott is going to be doing with O'Rourke. you support BLM, you do this and you do that and all this stuff, and I'm for the good things in life. I'm for the goodness of this law. I'm for the goodness of that thing, and I'm for, abolishing the badness of this law and abolishing this law and that law, because we're American, and all this other crap, and we love Jesus, O'Rourke needs to combat that crap by pointing out, no, you're not for the goodness of this law as sure as you're ruining it. No, you're not good. You're not for abolishing the bad policy as sure as you're combining it with some other method of handling, that has nothing, as sure as you're combining this policy with something that has nothing to do with this policy. You're combining defund the police with dismantling the police, something that doesn't have anything to do with defund the police. That's what Beto needs to keep pointing out. I'm for immigration, and all this stuff is Biden's job. He needs to do his job and all this stuff. No. First, you do your job. O'Rourke needs to tell Abbott that he needed to do his job and not worry about whatever president is in charge, says. Don't get me wrong. The president's backup should be fine. But Texas has always been able to handle its own self. It would have already been handled. And the proof, since there is no reports of infected COVID people in the sanctuary cities, and there's no proof of felons doing all these bad things in those sanctuary cities, the proof is the simple fact that all those bust migrants had already been passed with vetting and all this other stuff. They've already passed the background checks. They've already been quarantined. They've already been medically checked and all this stuff. Otherwise, there would already been reports of chaos in those sanctuary cities. Okay? That is also Biden's backup. And that should have been backing up Texas, as Texas can handle this on our own. But with government backup, it would have been a sure thing. It would have been handled easy. No problem. And it's exact opposite of what Abbott has done. Abbott ruined the method. Abbott ruined the policies. Abbott just plain disobeyed and went an entirely different method, which hasn't done a damn thing. Which hasn't done a single thing in benefit to Texas, much less America. These are what O'Rourke needs to point out. He needs to make sure that everybody out here sees what, the rest of us who are supporting him sees. The last thing we need to see is O'Rourke going, imagine if you were a guy that was in need of trouble, but then got bused to a sanctuary city. Excuse me while I facepalm myself. O'Rourke, do not louse this up with that kind of crap, okay? You need to stay on this guy. You need to stay on Abbott. You need to point out all of the things that he's messed up, and all of the things that he's doing, that he continually messes up on. He's ruining the policies, the procedures, and all of the processes that it takes to function as a state, to have the Lone Star State function the way it has been for centuries now. He needs to have it. He needs to be removed so that way the state can go back to being its self-governing, self-running, as opposed to being a facade, which is all that Greg Abbott is, just a facade. He stands tough. He talks a lot of crap. But as you see how the state is just being run down to the ground, run down to the gutter, close to being completely flushed down the toilet, it's that obvious that Abbott is not doing anything of what he's saying that makes a governor. It's time to push this guy out. We need Abbott to be removed, and we need O'Rourke to stick to that, instead of doing some kind of let's feel sorry for people thing, and that's why you want to vote for me. No, screw that. I hope he does bring his A game like the way he's promising to. I hope he does point out the simple fact that Abbott is just this horrible, worthless piece of shit, you know? So that's my spiel. I wanted to talk about other things, but it's getting late and I gotta get back to work. So y'all take care. Y'all take it easy. Stay safe out there. And remember that once somebody's upset with all of this, there's a possible shooting that's going to take place in a public area. And if you are in that public area, please make sure to have searched the area while you're in there for a place to get out of sight from where you think a gunman will shoot. And he's usually going to shoot from a safe distance, from a very big distance. It's been a long time since we had the days where a gunman stood in front of a crowd and sized everybody up with this raincoat, this long trench coat on a hot summer day or hot summer night, and I could say that still here in Texas because we got hot nights and hot days, it's just not gonna look right. Upper 80s, lower 90s degree weather, and this guy in a trench coat sizing up a crowd just before he pulls out the shotgun and starts shooting people. This guy's gonna be these days. Gunmen are snipers. Gunmen can't just simply walk up to a place and start shooting. As sure as the last guy that tried that was at a Target. He got tackled down by a Target employee, a basket collector. He got tackled down and beat up. But yeah, more than likely you're gonna want to find a place where you could take your girlfriend or wife and your kids out of visual range. Just move out of visual range and try to find a place to hide. And if you could, try to drag that one girl that's left behind. You know, the one that fell in love with the tough guy? That as soon as the gunshots start firing, pop, 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 he's the one that's leaving her behind. Damn, I hope my girl didn't get shot. Yeah, that one that's left behind. Try to make room for that girl. But yeah, stay safe out there. More than likely it's going to happen. It's going to happen just simply because of the simple fact that politics are really up there right now, and it's a driving force to a lot of people that like to hate. It's a driving force for a lot of dumbasses that fall under brainwashed rhetorics of hate, rhetoric speeches of hate, rhetoric teachings of hate. The dumbasses are going to be out there, and as we all saw in Chicago, Highland Park, some gunmen will be creative. They'll dress up as women to mingle into the crowd. They'll carry their assemble combative weapon there in a big purse, in a big bag, and they'll scale a roof. They'll scale a building to get on a rooftop and start shooting. I mean, that there is the dumbest of the dumbest of the dumbasses, because this guy went that extra mile to be a dumbass douche that's under the influence of somebody that's hate. You honestly think anybody gives a rat's ass about the Highland Park shooting, especially the ones that preach that hate? You go into that computer and you see who he's been following and listening to, and every single one of those people that have been speaking that he worships as he reads about them and all this other shit, every single one of them are right now enjoying their day. They're right now working on some other shit, waiting for Friday to come. This is Thursday. If they're not already taking the day off, it's Thursday. At the time of this recording, it's almost noon. And there's, the guy is already getting ready for his weekend break. Okay? The guy that preached all this and spewed all this hate is going to go enjoy his weekend. He's got tickets to a Sunday ball game. It's Thursday night. He might be taking time off now because he's got a road trip to a Thursday night football game tonight. And somewhere in these neighborhoods is this worthless douche of a guy, a dumbass, that just got done reading his stuff, reading that same preacher's stuff on his phone and thinking, yeah, I need to teach some people a lesson. Okay? This is why I'm bringing up the shooter safety thing again. And this is why I'm bringing it up, and I'm following it right after the debate where gun control is going to be brought up, and the worthlessness that my governor upholds it. The absolute denial of attempts that the governor has tried to uphold gun control laws, gun restrictions, regulations, anything. Governor Greg Abbott is spewing the same bullshit crap that people of hate, are spewing in their rhetoric. And this is Thursday night. They're going to go see a football game. Well, in the meantime, somewhere amongst you and I, in my neighborhood, in your neighborhood, there's a dumbass that just got done reading. Or reading is kind of a stretch, don't you think? Just got done watching a YouTube video. Just got done watching some douchebags on a website. For haters only website. Not necessarily YouTube. But there's some guy that just got done watching a comment, a speech on YouTube, and thinks that he really needs to kill people. And that'll teach everybody a lesson. And again, he's going to do this, either tonight or tomorrow or in the weekend or on some holiday. He's going to be killing a lot of people while the people who he follows are going to be enjoying their break. They're going to be enjoying some cold suds, barbecue. They're going to be out boning their secretaries, boning their wives, raping their little daughters, I don't know. Having incest sex with their kids. They're going to be doing all that crap. While this dumbass here somewhere here in our neighborhoods is going to be shooting a public area. Guys, stay safe out there, okay? Stay safe out there. Somewhere down the line, this is all going to balance out to where those doofuses get stopped. Dumbasses are bitch slapped into smartness. Bitch slapped into common sense. Somewhere down the line, we're going to be straightening everything out. Right now, it's not going our way. Right now, it's going their way. Greg Abbott is going to be spewing a lot of crap at O'Rourke. And as far as I could tell, the majority of Texas believes him. Don't get me wrong. My fingers are crossed. I'm hoping that Abbott loses. And that we could start the process of rebuilding our Lone Star State. The way it's supposed to be, the way it's always been. The Lone Star State. All right. Y'all take care. This is Chris with Chris's Comments, signing out.